We're back with another DC breakdown of Campaign 3, Episode 10 of Critical Role. We got chase scenes, we got a group date romance, we got more breaking and entering, and what happens if you're invisible and you take the dodge action. We're going to get into all of that. I really do love doing these breakdowns, and y'all have told me that down in the comments, and y'all in general have loved this series, but last time I switched to being able to, with Alcanar's Almanac and all the stuff I have on my plate right now, I was not able to post it right away as a second video, and now they've become a normal video on the channel, and I guess have suffered from that. So if you guys do like this series, let me know, like the video, comment, all that kind of stuff to show this video some love, because the last one didn't. And if that happens with this one, then I'm going to have to shift some things and maybe do breakdowns on other episodes. Comment down below what other D&D gameplay you want me to see, because trust me, I already have Brennan Lee Mulligan's D20 on my radar of breaking down next. But anyway, we got a ton of really cool stuff to break down this video. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Epic Tiles just launched their epic Kickstarter for magnetic tabletop terrain tiles. I checked these things out for myself, and I'm honestly impressed. They already fully funded their Kickstarter, and their stretch goals get even crazier to upgrade an already awesome product. These are well-made tiles that magnetically click together with honestly a very satisfying sound. They come in a huge variety of different types like grass, castle, sand, stone, temple, wood, and even water. And my favorite part is these things are double-sided, and you can flip them over and get twice the bang for your buck. They got a ton of different pieces to choose from. They have 2x2 tiles of all those different types. We have 3x3 tiles that are all interchangeable, matching together. You have castle dungeon walls, inner walls, outer walls, doors. They got tons of other stretch goals to unlock even more stuff. And they got a bunch of objects like pillars, trees, stones, and even fire to click onto these things. And I don't know if you already saw this in the clip, but they have a mimic tile, which I just think that's awesome. These things are already more affordable and more customizable than a lot of other options that are out there right now. And if you back their Kickstarter right now, you're going to get them at even cheaper prices. You can check out all the epicness in the link down in the description. It is an affiliate link, so any backers that back through this link also help this channel. So you'd be helping Epic fund their tiles, helping the channel, and you're helping yourself and your game table with some really high quality tiles. I mean, come on, just listen to that sound again. Oh, I love it. Now let's get to the breakdown. For the first clip here, we have the aftermath of Chetney's breaking and entering situation and what happens after he shatters through the glass window, escaping from this. He's invisible. He's completely invisible. That's going to be very important to note here in a second. He's invisible and shatters through a glass as he's escaping from this person that was looking around for him with a sword. And now this person is chasing after him, and the rest of the group is coming in. This is the action scene. Here we go. Matt tells the group that they each have one chance this round to be able to try and do something to help out Chetney before it's his turn and the bad guy's turn chasing after him. Laura's character Imogen comes up with a really creative use of a spell in an unusual way, and some interesting things happen.
I'm gonna pull out a handful of my ball bearings that I have. Okay. And I'm gonna use catapult to shoot them out. I wanna aim it as like low so he can like get under his feet. I'm gonna try to trip him from a distance.
Okay. From a distance. Okay, this will be difficult, just so you know, because it is in the middle of the rain, and he is running between stone and dirt ground, in which case the ball bearings, depending on where they hit,
I want it to be on the stone.
Right.
When he gets to
the
the
stone.
So
it's possible. It's just a difficult roll.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll an attack.
Is he within 60 feet of me at this point, or would he be...
No, he's running parallel, so you'd have to actually approach.
Okay, then I'm gonna use a... oh, God.
Ooh, committing
I'm gonna use
more.
a sorcery point.
Okay.
To double my distance.
You can indeed do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. I'll just stare her in the eye and just say, come on, you gotta make this work, and I'll cast guidance on you.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just rolling.
Committing resources.
D20, then add your spell attack modifier, I believe.
Okay, it's actually a dexterity save, so I don't know how that works.
Oh, it's dexterity save on their part. Never mind then.
Block out the world. Just
focus
on
this.
this.
Oh, then I don't have to roll, thank God.
You don't have to roll for that one.
Because that was a 1.
That was a 1.
You don't want to... It didn't count, it didn't count, it didn't matter, it didn't
She rolled a 1 but didn't count?
Burn one.
He rolls now?
You release it. You see a clump of dirt to his side, unfortunately.
That's such a cool idea.
It was fucking cool. Anybody else have anything they want to do before it gets back to Chetney?
I'm changing my hand out for...
You did guidance for
okay.
her, so that's your
thing. Forget it.
I crack my deck.
Hold up. Okay, a bunch of things here. We got a foul in the play. I'm calling a foul on Matt Mercer, the Dungeon Master here. We'll get into that here in a second. Imogen has a very creative use of this spell, and if you want to, as a Dungeon Master, tell them to mark off the spell and all that kind of stuff because they spent the spell slot, or sometimes I've seen Dungeon Masters rule that it doesn't outside of combat, but that can get a little weird. So anyway, she uses Catapult spell in a very interesting way to try and cause a trip type of situation, but I think that's super awesome. And this is something totally within the spell's capabilities in this very creative, specific situation in this awesome way to help a friend. So I love it entirely. What I would do here, and in any time that something like this happens, I don't care if the spell says it's a dexterity saving throw. We were about to have a really cool situation happen when she's like, okay, it's this, it's that. And then she rolled in that one. So technically that, in my opinion, that's the roll. She wanted to use a spell in a cool way, and that check would be on her in this skill type of challenge thing to be able to see if she could get that thing to happen that she wanted to do. The roll's on her, everything stays within the player. It's not in the middle of combat where you trigger dexterity saving throws, and yeah, sure, then the Dungeon Master can roll a dexterity save, all that kind of stuff. But this is a cool use of the spell in a different way. She would roll her dice, add her modifiers, and see what happens. And that feeling of, oh, it didn't work, would feel a lot more grounded if she rolled that natural one and there was a failure, and then he would describe some sort of really bad thing that happened with natural one, and then she just missed entirely, whatever it was. But at least the player rolled it, and in general I try and have it be player facing instead of DM facing, where they make their rolls so that their successes or failures are on them and it feels more grounded in them instead of this mystery dice that I roll behind my screen, which those are fine in combat, of course, but this isn't combat. This is a unique, cool thing, so I would have had it be that. And which brings me to Sam's character, Fresh Cut Grass. He wanted to cast guidance on her in this moment. She's about to do this thing to try and save their friend. He casts guidance on her, giving her more abilities to be able to do this. She'd be able to roll a d4 along with the skill check she's about to make. Yes, I know she rolled in that one, but that's not the point right now. He's helping her in this way, right? Granting advantage or literally helping with guidance, whatever. And it would add to her roll. And then the very last part of that clip that I want to make sure to add in there, Sam tries to chime in again and say like, okay, I'm going to undo. And Matt said, no, you already did something. You already helped Imogen. Technically, he didn't help Imogen, because if, as the Dungeon Master, you rule this as a dexterity saving throw, then Fresh Cut Grass's guidance didn't help at all in this moment, and that's not even counting towards him helping. If you ruled it as the player rolls the roll, then sure, the guidance would have been wasted on in that one. But technically, it's a dexterity save, and you can't do that against the enemy, and that's another reason why I have these moments be player facing, so that the players can make these cool rolls. If they use a spell in a cool way, cool. Instead of just issuing out the spell as the book says, I flavor this moment for the character, let it be a roll, whether it's a cantrip they choose to cast or whatever, let them do a roll of some kind, a spell check to flavor the power of this thing they do. It's just a really big letdown whenever this really cool moment. And then, I almost forgot this, Laura doubles down and spends a sorcery point to make this thing possible. She's spending a sorcery point and a spell slot and getting help from Fresh Cut Grass to have this moment. But it's a dexterity saving throw behind the screen, and then he describes a failure. And then Sam can't follow up with any sort of help type stuff because he already helped. But we're not out of the woods yet. Let's keep going on with Chetney trying to get away from this individual who's chasing him down. He is still invisible, and we're coming around now to his turn, see what's going to go down. This person's able to spot him in the rain. You could say it's the rain falling on his invisible form. You can kind of make it out just a little bit, but he's still invisible, so it's going to be really hard to hit an invisible person, which their attacks would be a disadvantage, right? Because they're invisible. Keep that in mind for what Travis chooses to do on his turn.
So what are you going to do?
I'm gonna use my action to dodge.
Okay.
So whenever it gets close, I'll turn on my heel and stare down my attacker.
Okay. As you get to the edge and you can see, you come up upon where that hedge is, and there's the bench off to the side. You have to dart right or left to even get under, or try and leap over it. But instead, you dig your heels into the wet dirt.
Mitting.
Spin around. And there you prepare yourself in a defensive stance as you see bearing towards you, saber in hand. A large swipe in your direction. Burglar!
Do you have to roll a disadvantage?
He does.
Okay, good.
That'll be a 12 to hit.
That misses!
That's his turn.
I want to bring this point up, even though this attack misses, but I think it's important to talk about because Travis and Chetney, the character, is running away from this person. He's already invisible. Attacks against invisible creatures have disadvantage. He even describes a great scene where he pivots around and role plays, I turn around on my heels and dodge. But the dodge action causes disadvantage on opponents' attacks against you, like the invisibility that you already had. And again, I'm not saying that Travis did the wrong thing here. I'm talking about the rules in this case. Travis did exactly what I would want a player to do. Commit to exactly what you want. You have invisibility. ability and you're going to take the dodge action, you should be rewarded for doubling down on these moments that you really want to happen, because it would feel really bad and off character for him to do something else simply because he's already invisible. And sure, some people could say, oh, you could take the disengage action instead. That would, because he's already, no. I feel like he should be able to really commit to standing his ground, pivoting on his heels, and staring his attacker down. I've already said this in 2 other episodes probably about advantage stacking, but this is a great case of disadvantage stacking, because yes, the attack would be at disadvantage -2 by my rules. Disadvantage because he's invisible, because my God, how hard would it be to attack an invisible person in the first place? And the invisible person is spacing you, purposely only trying to dodge you. Yeah, I think that's a -2. I just wanted to point this out on the other side of the spectrum to be able to show the disadvantage stacking moments, because I know the attack missed and he swung and he missed, he rolled a 12 or whatever, sure, but if it hit, that would have felt real bad, and these moments are what the stuff I want to talk about. And now to chain in the third clip, we have the finale of this little interaction of this character chasing after Chetney. The group arrives to kind of help him out, and this is where, as a dungeon master, what do you do sometimes when your players have some absolutely crazy plans that they're trying to pull off, and you're trying to come up with rolls? It's a really interesting situation. Let's see what Matt does.
You hear a small whisper from the crowd go, I died in that room. Let me be free. And I'll start running towards the rest of them.
Oh my God!
Like you're a spirit?
Okay. Okay. Make a stealth check and a deception check.
Love the double check. Love the double check.
Okay.
I'm gonna instantly go, oh, did you hear that?
And I am going to
Help. Assist.
hit him with not hit him.
With a knife.
What's happening?
Stab him.
What do you have?
A knife. No. What's it fucking called?
Love these moments.
19 for stealth,
Okay.
but only a 16
Stop
for
it.
deception.
Okay.
And I do unsettling presence to him to just aid to that feeling like
Helping.
maybe it is a fucking ghost.
Okay, what is the range on unsettling presence?
15 feet. Ooh.
So you backed away. You're very far.
Okay. Does that not work?
Not yet. You can get closer to try and do it, though.
How far away? I'm kind of hidden behind a bush. Can
Right,
I-
but you're about 60 plus feet away.
Oh yeah, that's gonna take a while.
That's far. That's
Just
far.
run at him in your scary ass days.
But you can begin to work that way.
I'll begin to work that way just in case it's needed.
Pulls the blade back and goes, "Ch-"
Did you hear that?
Fucking Chetney!
What is going on?
Is this place haunted?
Is it? I don't think so. Who are you? What are you doing out here? And at this point looks past and sees the dark, veiled creature stepping through the shadows and goes, ah! What? This place is haunted! And he just starts backing away, blade in front, like, go. You need to go now.
I guess we'll meet later.
Make an intimidation check.
Oh, yeah, that works. That's cooler.
You just keep walking forward as he does this?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But I'm not working at him. I'm like I'm behind the bushes where he is, so he is also just seeing me through
Right.
bushes.
Eyes are just locked on Laudna, like,
What do you see?
The rain is making my veil wet, so it's like sticking to my skeletal face in a very unnatural way, adding to the ghost
Great
like
addition.
I'm gonna cast levitate on Laudna as well.
23. I rolled an 18.
So I see the act and I cast levitate, and I now put Laudna about just 3 feet in the air.
what
Yeah.
do you do to intimidate him beyond just the presence?
Am I not doing it?
I'm just saying, if there's anything more you want to add to it, or is that just it?
I full, haunted house Marisha, just kind of roll my head a little and
Throws the saber and just goes running off towards the front of the courtyard.
Okay, a lot of stuff to break down here because this clip went on a little longer than I normally have, but I wanted to show this tomfoolery, messing around that all these players are trying to come up with a way to get out of this situation. Chetney's trying to act like a ghost and run back into the thing. Imogen's trying to be like, no. Oh, it's like she's playing into the thing, acting like she's scared too. And then Laudna comes in with her super creepy, all that kind of stuff. And so the three of them are really trying to make this thing work. And then Robbie chimes in there at the end. So what happens here? So from the beginning, whenever Travis starts to go and come up with this, I want to act like a ghost and run back in because I'm invisible. That's really cool. Let's see what happens. Matt asks him for a double check, which I totally love. I don't necessarily know what the stealth part of that was for, because maybe it's like silently, like not like your footsteps, like hearing your footsteps and stuff. So, okay, I think that's probably where that was from. But I like double checks in this moment because when they start to go really over the top in lots of different ways, I've talked about on this channel before, of putting in multiple barriers to failure if you don't want your players to, and there's been times where I've seen multiple layers be added in there, like, oh, you're about to fail, make this check and say, oh, and now you don't. Okay, because that thing saved you. In the same way, you can make it harder for someone to succeed by adding multiple checks to see if they succeed or not. Instead of just one check, you pass or fail it, you got to pass 2 checks to be able to get away with whatever you're trying to get away with right now. And he rolls a 19 on stealth. Okay, cool. And then a 16 on his deception. But myself as a dungeon master, I'm looking for some sort of advantage grant in here because Imogen and Laudna are both trying to help Chetney out in this way. So with Laudna acting surprised, then I would probably give advantage to that deception roll and have Travis roll 1 more dice to add it to the thing. And then probably, depending on how the advantage went or whatever, that would be the success. And he runs away. And this also depends on how hard you want this task to be. Is it just, is the story been told and we're over it now and we're trying to get to the next part? Or is this something very challenging? I think this is something that, okay, cool. Like, the thing is done. They've beat this situation, social encounter, whatever, and let's wrap it up now. And I think that would be a moment where they want to help Chetney be a ghost and run back in, and this person freak out and run away because there's a ghost that running back in. And oh my gosh, I was chasing after a ghost. That's crazy. I love that. That puts a bow on it for me, and I feel good with that. But it apparently wasn't. Maybe the 16 wasn't a high enough of a roll, or the other players are all wrapped up in this whole thing. Then there's the moment with Marisha where the Laudna's, the creepy character, there's some sort of range on this thing, which then starts to get in a little rules lawyery as far as how the mechanics of it all work. Because, and why I even say rules lawyery, is that, oh, you're really far away and the effect can't really take a place just yet. Okay, cool. Maybe that could set that aside so that Chetney could be the ghost that runs away. But then the story keeps playing out, and then it just so happens that Matt brings it back in and has her back to center stage. So that didn't really matter about the rules of the distance, because enough time passed where Matt's like, okay, like maybe that should have happened. And again, I'm trying to get into Matt's head, because we've had these moments as dungeon masters where moments pass us and we're like, oh shoot, maybe I should have, what do I do now? You know what I'm saying? And that's why the gray areas I love to talk about here. So this moment passes and now he's like, okay, well, how do I get these? How do we keep going here? Okay, well, I'm going to dive back into what Laudna was doing. So then he brings back in the scared roll and he said, make an intimidation check. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. So now she's brought back into this mix of everything, as Imogen's like, oh no, it's everything's haunted. And he has her make an intimidation check. She succeeds, rolls over a 20, and that alone probably was fine. But there's 2 more things here. Robbie chimes in, I'm going to cast Levitate and float her up even higher. But if my memory serves me correctly, wasn't Robbie who was the one who cast invisibility on Chetney in the first place, which is a concentration spell? So him doing this, this like levitation thing would have broken, which is also a concentration spell, would have broken concentration on the invisibility, bringing him back into frame, and that would have caused a whole nother thing. But this is now a moment for you as a dungeon master. Do you call this out hardcore rules lawyery and not let it happen and the invisibility breaks and blah, 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 blah? Or this already a success. It was already a 23. She already succeeded. Just let him flavor describe her and she floats up. Oh my gosh, it's fine. And because of the less stress in the situation, it was okay for him to be able to concentrate on 2 spells. Who cares? I'm fine with either way, but I think it's an interesting point to make. And I mainly say this because Robbie casting Levitate in this way didn't affect anything mechanically at all. She already rolled high enough to get the success and fine. Now, if he had granted advantage with that and then she was able to do it because he helped her, then maybe I'd call out the invisibility breaking, and then that's a whole nother thing, right? Or maybe we're just done with this part of the story and let's just wrap it up. One more bonus tip here for this little clip we've broken down. So many different things in this one clip is there's a little bit of a bad moment that's created whenever Matt asks for follow-up additional information of description from Marisha, because she describes all this crazy stuff about how she's looking, and she actually goes pretty greatly into the description.
The rain is making my veil wet, so it's like sticking to my skeletal face in a very unnatural way, adding to the ghost-like presence.
Look at that description.
What do you do to intimidate him beyond just the presence?
Am I not doing it?
I'm just saying, if there's anything more you want to add to it, or is that just it?
I full, you know.
So for this group, this is probably totally fine, and that's it. And it's actually funny that he asked for anything extra. But when your players do describe, especially if they're uncomfortable or new to it and they don't do it that often, whenever they describe stuff, they're like, all right, well, what else? Or is that it? You know what I'm saying? That can feel a little bit bad to play. Now, they are literally husband and wife in this. They are probably absolutely fine with this. And Marisha's one of the best at describing things. So you never know what you're going to get out of these players, because you should coax things out of them if there's some big cool moment and you want them to add something to it. Ooh, what does that look like? All right, now we're going on a big group date. The three girls at the table go on a date with an ogre named Pretty. And wow, this NPC is amazing. I love this NPC. It's so hilarious. But they go on a date, and this thing lasts for a while. They last for a little chunk of time where they're really looking forward to it. And this kind of goes to talk to dungeon masters about how much do you play up these moments, or how much do you just hand wave them and say like, okay, yeah, it happens, and you keep going with it. If players really want something to happen, like they want to go on this date, role play the date as much as you feel like that you would give them a reward of this thing that they've really been seeking after. Or you could be like, okay, you go on the date, this happens, that happens, and you can kind of fast forward through it. But they actually go into a little bit of it. He gives them gifts, and they have a back and forth for a little bit, and then it ends in just the same way of what I'm talking about here with a clip. Yeah, I'll show you.
Have you ever been on a date before, Pretty?
Not in a long time.
When was your last date? Who was she?
Well, I first came to Marquette.
During this time period, I'm gonna sit here and roleplay this entire date for the next 2 hours, y'all.
Anyway.
Perfectly executed, and I would say this is the perfect amount of time to spend in this moment. You had the date, they had a back and forth, they talked for a little bit, and then you fade to black at some point when you feel like, okay, I'm not going to, probably as the dungeon master, like, I don't want to have to come up with what Pretty's last date was. Like, okay, you found the line, we have drawn it here, fade to black. So make sure to give your players these moments so that they want something to happen, and they really set up something to like be in a moment. So role play that moment with them, let them sit in that moment, but then pull the cord on it when you have to. All right, now I got a gift for one of the players. Liam, I got you covered. I'm going to give Orem right now a bonus level up perk, okay? Just let Matt know, send Matt a clip of this video that Orem gets the following feature that he can add to his character now because of great, awesome roleplay that fits in line with what the character's doing. If you don't know, I've had 3 videos on the channel about bonus level up perks. It's something that I award players with in between or at level ups with these cool, usually flavorful upgrades for their character based on the stuff that they do instead of just the thing that the book tells them they get. Orem has definitely been established by his character and his magic items that he's a jumpy, springy type of character. So here's the clip, and then I'll give you the bonus perk.
Take a peek and see if anybody's out there.
I run straight at Dorian, and I spring off of his hand, and with a running jump, I can get my high jump with running start is 9 feet in the air, and I will cast Gust under myself to go another inch.
Yeah. You get up onto the top, and there are these large...
That's all I would need to give Orem the following bonus perk. If you cast Gust while jumping as an action, you are able to add 5 feet onto your jump. And if you want to get more restrictive or fancy with it, you can clarify that you have to spend all of your movement leading up to this action to then jump and gain 5 feet. How I would do this is I would talk to that player one-on-one, maybe after this session from this moment that speaks to me, or I'd wait until a level up happens and then give it to him then. And I would talk to just that player and be like, hey, so I know that you can normally jump 9 feet. I want to, if you can cast Gust and you use your full movement, all that kind of stuff, give them the mechanics, sure. Add 5 feet to it, which would bring you to 14 feet, which actually, let's go ahead and round that up to 15 feet. So now, from now on, you don't have to look up in your character sheet or like look up the rules on high jump and all that kind of stuff. You can jump 15 feet up if you spend your whole action to do it with Gust. It cleans up the game because now you're not having to look for rules or high jump all the time. And sure, you could probably modify this towards long jump and give them a little bit of a boned it to their long jump as well, and it gives nice rounded off numbers, so that's not weird sometimes with 9 feet versus 10 versus 15. Now for this next clip, we might have another foul on our hands, or do we? Because we have an interesting roll situation that happens. There's a group stealth check that has to be made. So he talks about everybody has a group stealth check. Okay, cool. After the rolls have happened, Liam had made his roll, Orm's character. Again, we're back with Orm. He made his roll with advantage, rolling 2 dice, right? He rolled a natural 20 and an 18. But then Matt says afterwards, like, oh, this would have been a disadvantage, so you would have only rolled once. So let me show you the situation, then we'll break it down.
Natural 20 plus 4.
Actually, for this, I would say it would be disadvantage because of the rain that's preventing you from able to hear, and it's kind of blocking the view a bit. So you would have just a straight roll.
Well, the other one was 18, so then that gets us down to 25.
Okay.
Okay, this is a big gray area. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are on this in the comments below, because there's going to probably be opposing views on this. But would you have made Liam re-roll? Or is it okay to just take the lower of the 2 rolls? Because technically, taking the lower of 2 rolls is you rolling now at disadvantage and taking that. So I get it. He rolled high. Okay, sure. He rolled 2 and it was high, 18 and a 20. So he took the lower. He just said it, and then Matt said, okay, fine, and you moved on. But what if he rolled a natural 20 and a natural 1? Would he have re-rolled? Would Liam have thrown out there, oh, then I failed because I rolled a natural 1, and then you just take the lower of the 2? That's not right. Or what if you were to roll at disadvantage and then realize, oh, it should have been a straight roll? Do you now get to pick the higher of those 2? Because that's now advantageous. Right now, I want you guys to take a big step back. If you were to roll and not knowing the rolls, let's ignore the fact that he rolled an 18 and a 20. If you roll 2 dice with advantage, and then the Dungeon Master tells you, oh, wait, you actually take a flat roll. Now you have just rolled at disadvantage. You realize that, right? And if you rule as a Dungeon Master, as Matt did in this clip, that, okay, that's fine, then that one rolling moment, the 2 dice, the dice are telling a story, they're both really high, he's fine. Then sure, move on. But this is more so a problem of a rule at your table, because this same situation could feel really bad if they rolled, and like I said, the natural 20, natural 1 example. If they had those 2 opposing opposite rolls, I don't know if it would have felt okay, or if Liam would have just been like, oh, well, now I guess I have a natural 1. I don't think that feels right. So in general, at my table, if you ever roll something and it wasn't the way it should have been, you re-roll it that way. Or you rolled 1 dice and, oh wait, you forgot disadvantage. Sure, roll another one, and those are the 2 dice. Another thing this reminds me of is, what if a dice rolls out of the box of what you're hey, we're not there yet. What if you accidentally roll a dice out of the box? Does that count? What if a dice falls on the table? Does that count? Be consistent with your rulings, or you will run into bad situations where a player rolls a natural 20 but it hits the floor. At my table, it doesn't count if it hits the floor. It has to roll in the intended location that you rolled for. If it's your dice tray, it's your dice tray. And if you think that's a weird rule, or that I'm a hard ass for doing something like that, then you probably don't watch enough of my videos to know how much how homebrew open I am to different things, and then letting players do a whole bunch of cool stuff. But it takes away from bad moments of if a player rolls in the tray and it bounces out and it's a natural 20 and they're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, actually no, it's in the tray, like then I would look like a jerk. But if I'm always consistent, then the players just know that that doesn't count, and they pick it up. Doesn't even matter what it was. They might be like, oh, it was a natural 20, but at least it's not I'm the bad guy, because we all agree on the certain way that the dice roll. But ultimately, what would you do in this situation? I totally see where Matt's head was. He rolled 2 dice, they were both 18 and higher. It's fine, you're good. So maybe your solution as a Dungeon Master is to let these moments go, and then when it would be bad and it would cause something bad, just be like, okay, just re-roll it, which in general is a huge advantage towards the players, but ultimately I don't think it's that big of a deal. So until next time, keep those dice in that box, but keep thinking outside the box. Peace.